Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Noble-Forcey here for Seconds Out. Delighted to have on the Zoom Jimmy Kelly. How are you, Jimmy? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, all good. How's yourself?
Yeah, good, man. Good, man. All the better for speaking to you. Looking forward to this interview. Loads to cover, like a lot to cover. Let's start the last year, 2022. Let's start with that. All of that. All sorts going on. You've been out in America. It's kind of been a bit of a reinvention of Jimmy Kelly. Not really in your boxing style, but sort of where you're fighting and who you're fighting. You seem to have gone, you've left the UK and sort of gone, despite the loss against Munguia, you're at sort of like world level now, which is kind of insane. So talk to me about the last year, the last two fights specifically. Kanat Islam, which, man, hell of a fighter. You got a huge win there. And then you fought Munguia for the world title. Sadly, you got the loss, but you were winning the fight. You looked completely in control there. So, yeah, let's start with the Islam fight, and then we'll talk about Munguia.
Yeah, it was the first show for Pro Box, and honestly, it came up. I think they've seen us as someone that's probably, when I've stepped up at that world level against like Liam Smith or Dennis Hogan, I think they looked upon us like, yeah, if Kanat's like the real deal, he should be beating this guy. He's someone that's obviously he's been in touching distance, so I think it was a fight that made sense for them. But I kicked his ass. So
yeah, you did, and I'm hearing you were really trying to intimidate him throughout the fight, which seems to have worked. Tell me about that, and tell me about that sort of mindset you got into to pull off that big win. It was kind of a bit of a crossroads fight for you at the time, if you don't mind me saying. Like, if you lost that fight, you would have gone a bit more gatekeeper-y kind of vibe rather than fighting for world titles.
Yeah, of course. I knew that going in, and the fight was offered, and you think his fight prior to that, he knocked the guy out in like 14 seconds, and I just thought, he's obviously experienced, he's getting a bit older, but it's a fight that I fancied, and yeah, I think there's sometimes like when you've got like big power like someone like him, like they have like that bully mentality, and I just tried to like take that away from him, like in the lead up to the fight. Remember, like when I landed, I went like a couple of weeks before, and he'd like based there as well early, and he was in the gym, like as I was like getting my room key and that, and I thought, fuck this. So I just like walked straight up to him and was like, "You all right, mate?" And he was like a bit taken back, and I like put my hands on like his arms, like there, and just like got a good grip of him. I was like, "Yeah, good luck." And like, I think he was a little bit like taken back. You know what I mean? But it's just all part of the game, and you just try to get any advantage you can.
Yeah. Well, Kazakhstan, they're quite reserved people. He's Kazakh, was he?
Yeah, he's Kazakh, and I think they have that. I think they have that reputation that comes from obviously the back of Golovkin, and everyone's always like, "Oh, he's the next Golovkin. He's this Kazakh monster," and yeah, he is. Like he's still a dangerous fighter, but I just thought, that was just my night.
A good boxer as well. How did you feel with that sort of side of the fight? Obviously, you're known as a decent boxer on the back foot. Well, what was that sort of area of the fight like? Because they're all pretty good over there at sort of basic boxing fundamentals.
Yeah, yeah. The boxing side, he's obviously an Olympic medalist and obviously unbeaten, and yeah, I felt like the boxing wise, like I controlled the fight. Like I brought it down to like my pace and just tried to like force mistakes. Obviously, I was like the B side, and I thought it's not for me to look amazing in this fight. Like I just got to just tick the boxes and win. And I think Pro Box were pulling their hair out because yes, they wanted like a little bit of an entertaining fight, but I just thought I'm gonna drag the life out of this fight. And I couldn't have had like a toe-to-toe battle with him because, his record spoke for itself. He was like a big puncher, and, I just thought I'll just make him make the mistakes and the pressure on him to look good here. And he overcommitted at times, and yeah, I just was able to box the fight and win round by rounds and just bank him.
Yeah, well, huge win, and put you back on the map after a sort of patchy couple of years. How Obviously, we'll talk about Munguia in a minute. So, how did all this come around? All this opportunity to fight in America? Because we're going to talk about the Dennis Hogan thing shortly. Don't worry about that. But you had a couple of years out of the ring, more than a couple of years out of the ring, and then you fought sort of Aguilar and Harry Matthews, sort of journeyman, and then bang, you're in America fighting Kanat Islam as the away fighter as well. So yeah, tell me about that sort of transition from knocking out Harry Matthews in a 6-rounder to fighting Kanat Islam in the States for a WBO global title.
Yeah, so obviously one of my best mates in boxing is Chris Glover. Obviously, I know you know Chris. He's
of course.
He's a scouser that lives in the States, and me and Chris speak all the time, and he obviously got in contact with like James, the manager, and said like, we've got the option here of the first show with like Kanat, like, are you interested? And this was probably about 3 weeks before the Harry Matthews fight, so he already had that booked so far. Well, that felt quite good because he's probably been out the year. He's out of the ring about a year or so, and he's not been that active neither. So I thought, well, he's an older fella. He's not been that active, and I'm going to get a fight here. And the Harry Matthews one was like a late replacement. I was scheduled to fight. I can't remember. It was some like fella from Ghana who was obviously, I think he was Commonwealth champion or something like years before. And I think like with the panic of like COVID coming back at that time, it was like the Omicron rubbish. So I think the boxing board were like, we're just going to be a little bit careful of like foreign opponents coming in, like try and stick to like a UK one. And I give like a lot of weight away to Harry Matthews. I think he coming in like 13 stone, and I come in like obviously a little bit heavy at like 12. And yeah, I felt good there. I felt sharp. He's a fella that's like obviously he is what he is, but I think it's the man who like I beat him after a little bit of time out. Like I put him down a couple of times and got the stoppage. He's a lot bigger guy. He's gone a distance with some good fighters, and he rarely gets stopped. And yeah, I think I just had that was just a bad start of some good momentum.
Yeah. So it was crazy, the COVID period. Everyone had to adapt, and you adapted by getting across the other side of the world. So and it's obviously appeared to have worked. So obviously you get this win over Islam. Pro Boxer obviously over the moon with you, and then you get this opportunity with Munguia. Did that come immediately? The opportunity with Munguia. You must have been like, what the hell is going on? 1 minute it's I'm not fighting because of COVID Omicron, and then I'm fighting Munguia for a world. It wasn't for a world title, but you were fighting Munguia, world champion. Yeah, tell me about how that happened and what great fight as well.
Yeah, it went a bit quiet after the Islam fight. Obviously, I enjoyed the win and spent some time with my family because I was obviously away preparing for that one, and we were just like going back and forth with Pro Box, like different options to fight on their shows and what route we'd get to a big fight. And this is about 5 weeks prior to the fight. Me manager messaged us and just said, "Oh, I've had a message off Golden Boy in regard to the fight with Munguia. Have you got any interest in it?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I think obviously then spoke to Pro Boxing, went quiet for about a week and a half or something. But I thought, I'm gonna keep training. I'm not gonna like take my foot off the gas. In my mind, the fight's on. And it went quiet, and I heard other things like, "Oh, Michael Zarafa's got the fight instead," and it was a bit of like a weird period. And about 4 weeks before, they just said like they made the offer, and went back and forth, and yeah, it's like 4 weeks to go when it was in. So I just made sure I was ready, and obviously I'm always in the gym, and yeah, I just took the opportunity.
Yeah, well, it must have been such a relief last year after hardly fighting, and obviously you're not making any money, so it must have just been a relief to be back and coming back in such a big way. So talked about the Munguia fight. You were looking really good in there. You were all over him, and then you got the first knockdown was kind of a bit weird. You kind of stumbled back. You kind of caught. I don't know if you want to tell me what happened there, but and then he stopped you. So yeah, tell me about your thoughts on what happened there.
Yeah, I think.
Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, I just think We fought at the Mighty Duck Stadium, the ice hockey team. So there was
Yeah.
a bit of ice left on the ring, and I just fell over, and then the referee just took any opportunities and stop it. Nah, he caught me with a left hook. I was just like, if like I mentioned in one of the other interviews, like as he's like he's got like his lead arm across me, but like that, and like if you watch it, like his elbows like in my neck here. So I've gone like that and pushed it away. That I pushed it away, he brought like his left arm round and left up me right over the top of it
Oh,
as
crap.
I've been stepping back. And I wasn't too badly hurt. Like I'd gone down as a bit like, oh, this isn't
Yeah, you
new
didn't
feeling.
seem it. Yeah, you got
Uh,
up on 8, you took the count normally. Yeah, you look pretty chilled. But yeah, and then how hard does he punch? Is he
yeah, it's a solid puncher. I remember I remember thinking because he's like that bully mentality. Think if he sees you hurt, he's gonna go for the finish. And I thought, if I get hurt any time in the fight, I'm gonna try and it's like it might not be the wisest thing. I thought I'm gonna try and pretend that I'm not because if he thinks that you hurt, the pressure's coming in. He's just gonna swarm you. And I thought, will he react the same if he doesn't think that you hurt? Like, will he wait for his opportunity? So I thought I'm gonna try and pretend I'm not hurt. So obviously I went down, wasn't too badly hurt, got up, and I made like an effort. I made like a decision just to like run towards the center of the ring again. We had a few exchanges, and the biggest shot in the fight landed. He caught like a right uppercut
Hmm.
as I stepped in, and that was the second knockdown, and that was a quite heavy shot. And then I was a bit buzzed from that one, and the third, it was more just like the flurry of punches. Yeah, I mean, nothing really landed, but it was just like the swarm started, and he's throwing all these shots, and the referee obviously, I went down, and the referee obviously jumped in, and it is what it is.
Yeah, you were up despite being stopped. How did you feel about the stoppage? Were you in a state to continue, do you think? Or
Yeah, I felt all right. I felt, as mad as it is, like I went down again. It was the second knockdown that really like took the wind out of us, but I felt okay. Like when I
Hmm.
got up for the third one, I remember like looking over, and because he's like emptied his tank to try and get the finish, he's like gasping, and I thought, all right, sound like, and I knew it was close to the end of the round. I heard the clapper go when I was down, so I thought,
Hmm.
I'm in the last 10 seconds. Let me get back to the corner, try and fucking pull myself together, and hopefully like he's expended like a little bit there, try to get the finish, and it's come at the right time. But obviously, with a second to go, the referee stopped it. But it is what it is. Like he's obviously he had a better view than I did of what I look like, and
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, in his position, it's like, well, you've been down like numerous times, so it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, you were unlucky, man. The fight where the referee kind of stopped the fight before the sort of knockdowns happened in round 5, and it sort of stopped your momentum. Kind of, I felt.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was sort of holding the head. You both did it after each other. It wasn't too bad, but yeah, you kind of got stopped. The fight kind of got stopped there in the 5th, and then he had a word with you both, and then that seemed to stop the momentum, maybe in a small way, but who knows? But regardless, great year. You're back in business. Obviously, I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I want to talk about what was next, but I want to get into what happened with the fight with Dennis Hogan. You went out to Australia, lost on points a couple of years ago now. Well, yeah, back in 2018. So that was out in Brisbane. There were failed brain scans just
mm.
before the fight. You tell me what happened there, man. Just tell me about it. Very weird.
Yeah. So
Very
yeah, I obviously was over there and going through. I went, I think, about what 2.5, 3 weeks prior because obviously it's quite a long way into it and the time difference. I thought, I'm gonna get there in good time and relax. And yeah, I got like my manager at the time had messaged me on I think it was a Wednesday night. I think I had the press conference in the day, done all that,
Hmm.
and then on the Wednesday night he said, like, "Oh, well, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just relaxing." It's obviously late at night there. It must have been like midday. One sec. And he said, yeah, you've got the problem with your brain scan. And I was like, well, what is it? He's like, well, British Boxing Board have obviously been sent your scan or something, and there's something of concern, like they don't think you should fight, and all this, that, and another. And I was like, well, well, what is it? They said, oh, I think their procedure is like you've got to see a GP. You got to come home and see a GP. And it was a bit like, well, if it's that bad, I don't really want to be flying home. I mean, obviously, pressure if you're in the plane for like over a day. So I don't really want to come home. Like, I want to make sure like I'm okay first before I'm coming home. Like, but obviously, it felt fine.
Felt fine, yeah.
Yeah. Then I went and had another scan the next day, and that come back like it was okay. Um, seen a neurologist, and he was like, "Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, like you're fine." And um, I sent that to the British Boxing Board, and they just said like, "Oh yeah, but we want like another opinion." And there was the Commonwealth Games were on in obviously the Gold Coast, Brisbane at the time, like 2018, and they had like their neurologist there. So obviously, I had to have like an emergency appointment with him. He like read me scan. He just was like, yeah, there's something like there, but it's not an issue. Like, if you're, I'm not a boxing fan, but if you're my son, like, say that you're safe to box, don't worry about it. But then this was the day of the fight, so like 3 o'clock in the afternoon of the fight that I was able to see him. And then obviously he's I'm going to write my report now and send it across.
Mm.
But then obviously you're licensed by the British board, like they've got to be the ones to okay it. So like I'm at the venue like getting wrapped up, and the promoter of the show, like he was obviously come to the appointment with us because he's like, what the fuck's going on? You get what I mean?
So
Like,
they're working with you to get this pushed through. They're not.
yeah, they're like, mate, what's going on? Like,
Oh, okay, cool. That's good then. Yeah.
because then I was like, mate, like, and because he's got like the licensing or something, he said, so I told him, and he's like, right, okay, like we'll try and get it sorted. And he'd come in like an hour before I was supposed to fight, and I've obviously gone through the motions, like I'm dressed and bandages on. But I'm thinking like they're not going to allow it. You know what I mean? And then he come in and just said, right, we've just got confirmation, like you're fine. And I was like, right, okay, it's time to fucking like build up now. No, and it was just hard to like try and switch on at that point, but it is what it is. Like it just put it down to experience. You know what I mean? And I thought I'd done enough to win. And I remember after the fight, like the promoter of the show come in, and he was like sat on he was having a beer like in the change rooms, and I was like, obviously gutted. And he's like, even though like obviously it was his guy, he just said, mate, honestly, like I was driving down here, like I had my speech ready to try and like say to people like, sorry, but the fight can't go ahead for whatever reason. And he said, I was welling up thinking about it in the car. And then he said, like, so mate, like win, lose, or draw, to even go 12 rounds after like the last couple of days that you've had, like, thank you, and we appreciate you going ahead. And I was like, it is what it is, isn't it? Like, I thought it was a fight that could open like a lot of doors for us, and it just didn't come at the right time. But obviously, in the future, when it did, like,
Yeah,
it was
inadvertently, it maybe
yeah.
has. Yeah. Well, it's all part of the experience now. You're 30 years old. You're now you're pretty comfy at middleweight now. What's next? What's next for Jimmy Kelly? What Pro Box got lined up for you? They've obviously got shows going on every month. You've got a lot of options. It looks like you can fight there. You can probably get a shot at one of the big boys again. Well, what do you want to do?
That's my plan. Like I went over and had a chat with Gary before Christmas, at his offices and stuff like that. And I think I'm in the camp where I need a win. Like you can look at all the big fights you want, but I'm in. They make my record said I'm coming off a loss. Like so, I'm gonna get a win. I think they're looking at 22nd of September. They're doing like shows on Wednesday nights at the minute, so I'm
Okay.
happy to go over there and get a good win. And like I said, I've made it clear, like it's not one of them where I want to. With my age and my experience, I don't want to be sat there for ages and have like 2 or 3 fights on Pro Box this year. You get what I mean? Like I appreciate like the platform, but like the company's invested into us, so I know they've got to make the money back. And I just said, look, I'd like a fight with the likes of Lara for the world title after a win, with Janibek for a world title. There's a guy that Chris mentioned. He beat Rosario on Pro Box. It's on PBC. I think he's a Cuban guy. I can't remember his name. He beat that Jason Rosario recently.
I'm just looking now.
Yeah, so
Mendoza, yeah? Brian Mendoza.
I think that's it. Yeah, so I just said, look, maybe aim number one for me is the world title. Like, if I think the Janibek fight makes sense because he's beat a couple of Brits. I beat a Kazakh. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a backstory there. I'd love to do that on Top Rank. If not, Lara's not fought since May, since he beat Spike O'Sullivan, and I think he's probably there for the taking. He's not the fighter he once was. And if they don't materialize, the gentleman you just mentioned, then Mendoza.
Yeah,
I think Mendoza would probably be like the next one. So say if he's not a world title, the likes of that Mendoza would be nice.
A big guy coming through. Yeah, big guy.
Yeah.
Talking about you were saying there that you fought, you beat Kazakh. Do you think maybe you've got a good style for these Eastern European, former Eastern Soviet Union guys? It certainly looks so from the Islam fight.
Yeah, maybe like each fight is individual. Have I got the style to beat Janibek? Like, yeah, I believe so. Like, I'm experienced. He's looked good in certain fights, and then obviously his last fight he didn't look as dangerous. And I think the people are quick to jump on and say, "Oh, it's the next Golovkin," and they said the same about like Kanat Islam, and obviously I beat him. He's beat a couple of Brits, old Janibek. So yeah, that could be a selling point. I mean, I've beat someone from his nation and vice versa. So I think that's something that makes sense. I'll hopefully be back in the ring in Feb, and maybe that's something that can be done in the summertime.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, it looks sounds exciting. I'm sure there's going to be some big fight for you. So plan is get back out on Pro Box, get a fight, get a win, and then get yourself back to get to these big names. Which I'm no doubt will happen. So moving on, I hear you've been sparring with Chris Eubank. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got back New Year's Day, went obviously like all Christmas week and that sparring, and yeah, just obviously helping him prepare for the Liam Smith fight. I thought I'd be staying another week, but for whatever reason, I'm back in Manchester. So yeah.
Yeah. So how's it been for you? Good learning experience, or not that you really need to learn at your age. You've been around the block now, but
yeah, it's good sparring. It's like obviously he's experienced, been around. I'm experienced, been around. It was good rounds, and I think he's appreciative of the rounds, and obviously I was appreciative. I was looked after, and yeah, it's good to sharpen my tools.
Yeah, I used to live in Brighton. It's a nice town actually.
It's just a bit cold. I said when you had
it is cold down there. Yeah, it's like a bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, the waves. I was walking to the gym and the waves are just fucking swatting the beach.
So obviously you've Liam Smith, someone you've fought before, and then you've been sparring Eubank. What do you think's going to happen in that one? What do you think's going to happen there?
I don't know. Like, it's a difficult one because, I'm gonna be. I like both guys. Like, I was chatting to Liam just before Christmas. No, maybe October time. Like, he was at Arnie's, like with one of his fighters sparring, and we're having a bit of a chat. And he's always cool. Like, as mad as it sounds, he beat me a long time ago. It don't feel like he has. You know what I mean? Like, as mad as it sounds, it feels like be like a younger version, be like a kid. But all respect to the world, he's a great fighter, and with his style, it's a weird one because it's like they both could play into each other's hands. It's like the pressure of Smith could prove tough for Eubank, but also Smith standing there in the pocket while Eubank unloads his shots is also the kryptonite, and vice versa. You get what I mean? So it's going to be an interesting fight anyway.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, I've got to ask. Everyone's talking about. What did you make of the cancelled fight between Eubank, Conor Benn? Obviously, the dust has settled. It looks like it's going to happen again. You being highly involved in the industry, what was your opinion on the whole thing? Or maybe even your opinion on the reaction to the whole thing. Whatever you want to say, mate.
Yeah, I think the drug one, I'm not going to pass comment on it. Yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
he keeps saying that he's, I'm innocent, and wait till you see what comes out. But at some point, it's got to come out because it's October time, so it's like 3 or 4 months later. Like, when's there going to be like something that's come out? I just hope it's not one of them things that time goes by and it's forgotten about, and then he's just like, oh, he's got his license back now. And yeah, I mean, he was adamant that he was innocent, and I'd like to. I'm not saying he is innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, but there was a lot of talk to say that you'll be surprised and we'll prove our innocence. So I'd like to see. So um, the fight in itself, you know, Connor's a good fighter at his weight, but I just think that maybe Eubank would have been too big, and obviously the whole like banking on was how will Eubank make the weight, but it's a big if. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same when like I know Tyson, I like Tyson, but the whole thing of like the third Chisora fight was like, oh, like Chisora's got a puncher's chance, and
Mm.
again, like it's just a small chance. Like it's just like it's basically like the lottery to do that.
Hmm. Yeah, Brooke Khan had that kind of. I know what you mean. There's been kind of surreal fights happening over the last year, like big, massive fights. It's really cool. It's good for the sport. But yeah, like Chisora Fury. That obviously it didn't happen. Eubank and Ben. Sort of Amik Khan, Kell Brook, mainly because it should have happened 5-6 years ago.
Mm.
But yeah, I feel like obviously Liam Smith, Chris Eubank Jr. is a much better fight. But obviously that's something you know, the chance of a big UK fight, is that something that's open to you?
Yeah, like I
Obviously
said,
loads of
my
good
mom.
fighters at that weight.
Yeah, like I said, I'm open for them. Like absolutely. You know, I'll always see what happens. Hopefully, get out myself in February, and we'll just see what opportunities are there. We'll sit down with Pro Box, and yeah, we'll choose the best route and see what's there.
Okay, man. All right, Jimmy. Well, I think that is everything. I've taken quite a lot of your time. Thank you very much for speaking to Seconds Out. We'll get you on. We'll get you on again very soon, mate.
Thank you, pal. All the best.